急速装填起動精密照準開始目標に着弾
Hello everyone, and welcome back to World of Warships Blitz with Harry. Today we are looking at the ship that's currently in the event. It's a black ship, and it's Japanese, and it's big. And it's an Izumo. Now, I haven't played the Izumo, I haven't even played the Yamagi, and I haven't played the Yamato. But from what I've heard, the Izumo is universally hated for being one of the worst tier 9 ships in the game. And like a big hurdle on the way to making it actually to the Yamato. So, of course, now we're having a black version of it. So would anybody even want this ship? Well, let's take a look. Now, the real Izumo didn't exist. And there was a design sketch that is what is now the Izumo, the I think A140-J design, and this was one of the preliminary designs for the Yamato. The Japanese had just decided that screw it, we're doing this on our own, left the League of Nations, left the Washington Naval Treaty, and wanted to build a very, very, very big battleship. Because the Japanese were firmly aware that they weren't going to be outbuilding the Americans at any point in time, just due to economic differences. They wanted just to build ships that were so big and so powerful that they could take on. They would be of superior quality to the American ships, such that they could take them on in a battle. And obviously, you wouldn't expect them to be first in line, but first of all, they would be worn down by torpedoes. And the really big battle wagons would be coming in later to, mop up. So this was one of the designs. It was clearly inspired by the Nelsons, but this ship didn't exist. And this was one of the only designs that actually had 410mm guns rather than the 460 or 18-inch, 18.1-inch, whatever it is, that eventually ended up in the Yamato. Even these guns didn't exist. I mean, we do have 410mm guns in the game. I think in Nagato and probably also in Amagi, I have to check. But the specific guns that were supposed to be inside in the Izumo didn't exist because the ship was never built. So let's start taking a look, and probably the first thing we want to do is compare the black Izumo with the tech tree Izumo. Because if we're running on the assumption that the tech tree Izumo is utter garbage, then let's see what the difference is. The very first obvious difference is that while the tech tree Izumo gets 3 precise aiming 2, the black Izumo gets 2 precise aiming 1, but in return gets also 2 rapid reloads. Right then, that's a good start. She does get marginally more hit points, with about 500 or so it's not a huge difference. And the guns, these 410mm L50 10 year, which didn't exist, are doing just ever so slightly more damage on the AP, but that's about it. Other than that, they look pretty much identical. Same goes for the secondaries, same goes for the auto secondaries, which seem to have to be missing their label, but we're just assuming that it's the exact same ones. They do have a pretty good range on the secondaries, by the way. So 6.9 kilometer is nothing to sneeze at, and these are 155mm secondaries, and they're firing high explosives. So if you're in a destroyer and you're planning on rushing one of those things, just be aware that they can shoot back. AA, I mean, we're in tier 9, so it's not great, but it's also not completely abysmal. And the concealment is exactly identical. So as usual with the black ships, they are very close to their tech tree equivalents. By the way, if you're not aware of this, how this works, black ships are not premium ships technically, but but they are kind of like collector's edition. But for purposes of captain, they work exactly the same. So if you have a captain on the Japanese line, you can switch it out into a black ship for without having to retrain and back again, just like you could in any premium. The problem, of course, is that the rapid reload isn't really going to be doing you any good. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. So let's have a look at the equipment. Now, the dispersion, the stock dispersion on the Izumo is dreadful. And I mean American levels of dreadful from what I've seen so far. I feel like the main battery mod 3 is a must here in the first slot. And nobody in their right mind would go for a brawler build on an Izumo anyway, because these things don't have a great amount of armor. The deck protection mod in 2, because the fire and flooding resistance is pretty terrible as well. And I actually have the steering gear mod in the 3rd slot because they are very sluggish on the rudder. Although on this particular ship, I've also tried to play with the torpedo defense mod, because she actually reloads reasonably quickly, especially with the rapid reload active. And oftentimes you find that you just don't have the time to wiggle the ship around. But they're both valid choices. So let me quickly show you what I'm talking about. So the armor on paper isn't actually that terrible, but in practice, she gets hurt pretty easily. She has a turn time, I think, of 18 something seconds. So we get 2 seconds out on this. Now the thing is, and we're going to have to look at this a little bit closer, and it's pretty hard to see. Let me try to full screen this. You can kind of see it here. So the 3rd turret, the C turret, effectively, is obviously not super firing to the B turret. But unlike on the Nelson, it is positioned such that it has to loop the long way around. So while the Nelson can remain bow in and get her turret. Let me show you what I mean. I'm going to find the Nelson quickly. Was that a 7 British premium? And let's put that in. Where is the Nelson? There she is. So if you look at the 3rd turret on the Nelson here, you can see that the gun barrels just kind of skirt underneath the B turret. So the Nelson can stay bow in and swing her guns from one side to the other side very quickly and get all guns to bear. This is not quite the same on the Izumo. Because if we are putting the filter back out again and get back to the Izumo, there she is. No, not that Izumo, the black Izumo. Well, it's the same thing on the real Izumo. So let's just look here because it's easier to see. So you can see that the third turret needs to loop around in front of the superstructure and then on the other direction. So this means you have to very quickly make up your mind, or early on make up your mind where you want the guns to point, because you're not going to be swinging the C turret around very quickly at any point in time, because the turret traverse, of course, with the elite bonus is at 5 degrees, which is standard for battleships, but the guns do have to loop all the way around. So it's similar to what you have on a rear turret on a more conventional layout, which, by the way, brings us to the elite bonus. You get the choice between torpedo damage reduction and main battery. I like the main battery, especially the reload. The free 3% reload is nice in combination with the reload booster. The commander, and yeah, here's kind of obvious again that you are not going to be using this as a captain trainer very easily, because you're going to need a specialized one for it. Because while the first things are the same, I mean, you may want the fire supremacy for an additional precise aim also on the tech tree. You definitely want the marksman skill, but you definitely don't want the master reloader because the tech tree ships don't get the rapid reload. So this is a bit questionable. If you're happy to play without and then just use it as you still do get an additional rapid reload, and you can play without the master reloader. I have tried to actually play with a master reloader. You can use, by the way, the close quarters combat expert for better being able to deal with destroyers, or you use the demo expert for triggering for baiting damacons, because usually if you shoot somebody's rudder off or shoot somebody's guns off, they tend to use a damage control to repair it, and that's fair enough. But then they are obviously exposed, and the main guns, which is also why I have the exploit weakness here. The main guns, they are a bit, well, I wouldn't say they're bad, but they're typically Japanese guns. They don't hit particularly hard, but they have a pretty good HE shell. So, for example, you will struggle to penetrate something like a Bismarck at long range with this thing. I mean, the same goes for the American guns. The difference being that the Japanese guns actually have a pretty good high explosive shell. So oftentimes you will find yourself, if you find yourself battling, and this is a tier 9 ship, so if you're battling a großer Kurfürst in this thing, it might actually be reasonable just to use the HE to get fires, because a 14% fire chance is nothing to sneeze at. And with a 20-second base reload and the rapid reload active, you actually get a decent amount of shell fire on target. The historical camo is nothing surprising. It's the usual battleship setup. It's obviously very much recommended, but we are going to stick with the Seaborner sword. I always find the camos to look a little bit weird on the black ships. It would almost be nice if there was a camo that just left the ship black. But still, it's pretty enough, really. And yeah, there we go. The Black Izumo. So let's get ourselves into a game. In our first battle, we are top tier. We're playing on chain, and on the enemy team, there's Minnesota, Iowa, Bismarck, 2 cruisers, 2 destroyers. Very nice, well mixed. We have a Seattle on our own, but in return we get a battleship more. And it's epicenter mode. So my expectations on this ship weren't great, because, well, first of all, everybody said the Izumo is absolutely dreadful, and I'm not a huge fan of Japanese, of long-range snipers. I haven't tried the Japanese versions of them. So what we're going to have to do is positional play here, obviously. So my guns initially are pointing towards the left. So I have to decide, do I want to be on the right side of the island, in which case I want my guns to point to the left so I can poke out and shoot them, or do I want to be on the left side of the island, in which case I have to point my guns to the right. Now, given that there's a battleship on my left, I'm thinking, okay, he's probably going to secure the flank, because as you hopefully know by now, flanks are actually important in epicenter. But then he does a turn, does a hard turn, and heads towards the middle. So I'm going to have to make a choice here. If I'm going to swing the turret around, because if I'm going, I think I'm going to have to turn left here, and and go on the other side, which means my guns are on the wrong side, because that battleship there is not doing what I thought he was going to do. So now we're going to have to turn the turret around, and there you can see the third turret turning very slowly, as is common for battleship turrets, around, which means I currently only have 6 guns to work with. But nothing spotted quite yet. 2 of our destroyers are in the center cup, so I just want to be on this side here to get flanking shots and anything that happens to be in a defensive position back there. Okay, so we've got 2 destroyers against 1 enemy destroyer in the center, and there's a Wichita sitting, just brazenly sitting there. So this is about as far forward as I want to go. I'm inside the capture circle, and I can hit the Wichita and hurt the Wichita. Now, if I had got a couple more shells on, this would have hurt a lot more. But there comes the cargo. Okay, there comes the cargo. So both enemy destroyers are in. I don't want to go any further. There's a Bismarck for me to shoot at. And you see, even with a precise aim active, the dispersion isn't particularly great. So the additional DPS is much enjoyed. So, given that I'm starting to come under fire here, I'm just returning a little bit, and yeah, as predicted, there come the torpedoes. These are either Benham or probably cargo torps. But Japanese battleships have a very good torpedo damage reduction, and yeah, that Wichita really doesn't want to be there, because while he is in a defensive position against the rest of my team, he's very much not in a defensive position against me. And the reason I want to shoot at the Wichita is such that the Wichita can't do anything about the destroyers in the center, which are currently holding the center. Now, obviously, if I could hit him, that would be great, but we've definitely pushed his health down enough that he doesn't want to come out. Now, there's a Bismarck, and yeah, once again, you can use the armor piercing and go for a lucky shot. But trying to turn the ship around to dodge the return fire isn't really going to help, so at least not very much. I mean, he did overshoot, but I didn't do a huge amount of damage to him. So in these kind of situations, I really want to shoot at the cruisers. In these kind of situations, the high explosive is not a bad choice. There's a Minnesota. Can't lock on, but just going to get a blind shot off. We are currently holding the center cup and the outer ring, which means we have the greater points income. And yeah, American battleships I can hurt with these 410s. So I'm the only one at this flank, which means that I can take pot shots without anybody really doing anything about it. Now, of course, if the Kagero had, rushed me, or if the Bismarck had even if the Bismarck had rushed me, this would have become a different story. But they're not, because they're focused on the other side. And there comes the Wichita again, trying to endanger our destroyers. But no, I'm not having any of that. So I don't know if he sees me, he just had a brown alert moment. But yeah, he got very lucky there not to be deleted. And he's firmly hiding behind the island and is leaving that Z-46 alone. And there's the Minnesota coming back out. And I really just want to be at this distance, do the positional play and shoot at people. Okay, a couple more shots in, return fire coming in. So you will take damage, but it's manageable. And you can't quite do the Nelson thing of sitting bow in. Now, the Wichita and the Minnesota have seen the Z. I've waited a little bit. There we get a good dispersion for a change. I've waited a little bit to see if the Wichita was going to come out and just blab him in the side, but he doesn't seem to be interested. So we'll leave him to it. The thing is, he can't come out anymore, because if he comes out this side, I'm gonna delete him, and he comes out the other side, and there's a Kansas coming well, very slowly coming in their direction. So I think even though we're just 1 kill ahead, we've got such a massive points lead, and yeah, the Z-46 takes out the Wichita on the other side. We've got such a massive points lead that we're probably pretty much all right in this game, and we would just have to clean up. The rapid reload, it's just the rapid reload 1, but I think you can trigger it around about 12 seconds to get 2 charges, because you do have, with the elite bonus on and the respective captain skill, only a 20-second reload. So like 11 seconds I think is more, 10-11 seconds is kind of the sweet spot. Alright, so I've taken the Minnesota out, and I think that was about the last ship we're actually going to get a shot at, because we're already at 800 points and we're controlling all 3 capture circles. So we're just going to take a gander and see if we can shoot at anything else, like that cruiser over there. But yeah, the Izumo is very much a positional ship. So it's not a brawler, it's not a rush out and get stuff done sort of ship, it's not a taking point ship. But get yourself into a defensible position, make use of the, get an island between yourself and enemy shells, and you are actually capable of doing, I don't know, pretty well actually. So we are, where do we come in the team? Let's take a look. And we are... we come at 3rd in the team, but we did by far the most damage in this game, because we have taken the flanking shot, which is exactly what we want to do. And we've scored 3 citadels in the game as well. So you can definitely do some damage with these things. Now, what if you get into a tier 10 game? So here we are, back on Epicenter and Chain, but this time around, it's a carrier battle. There's a Midway, a Yamato, Iowa, Moskva. There's 1 bot on the enemy team and there's 1 bot on our team, so we're just going to ignore those. But we also have another black Izumo on our side. Now, most of the battle you really want to hang back, play at range, and the range isn't terrible with 14-point-odd kilometers. And you want to find yourself a defensible position. This is not a German battleship at all. This is a long-range snipey battleship, which isn't usually my playstyle, but I'm actually finding, weirdly enough, that I'm enjoying myself. So, same story as last time. I'm going to assume from prior experience that I'm going to take the flank. So I'm already setting myself up and turning my gun turrets around. This is quite important because it does take a long time to get the 3rd turret looped around. And we do want to keep an eye out where the carrier is going, because if you're coming under concentrated air attack, the AA is okay, but you're not going to defend yourself against a tier 10 carrier. You're just going to have to take it on the chin. Which is once again why I think the torpedo damage reduction build is also not a bad choice, because that means you can tank more torpedo airdrop torpedoes as well as regular ones. So once again, we are alone on this flank, all by our ownsies, but we're going to park ourselves behind next to this island. We'll see where the enemy team is positioned. So we've got the gearing spotted. We don't have any destroyers on our side, so center cap is probably going to be owned by the enemy team. There was something briefly spotted up. It's a Moskva. Briefly spotted over there, so let's get some shots out. Okay, Moskva is actually in reverse. So we still got 6 hits in, but I think we actually hit the Brindisi, who did a "get down, Mr. President," and just sailed in front of him. We get a second salvo out, and I'm assuming that he's turning right to dodge. So I'm aiming a little bit higher, but and I think that wasn't a terrible aim. But can I get the Brindisi, or is he going to disengage? No, he's turning away now. So let's start shooting at the Moskva, because the Moskva is shooting back at us. And here I'm actually doing a little bit of a misplay because I've been backing up too far, and it does take the ship quite a while to get back out. But yeah, you can get 8 shots on target. Citadel would have been nice, but now I'm kind of stuck behind this island for a little bit until I make my move and poke my nose out again. But surprisingly, the enemy team is not holding the center cup. I don't know what the gearing is doing, but our Des Moines is in a very aggressive position there, and him and the carrier together are probably scaring him out of the capture circle. Meanwhile, I obviously need to support the Des Moines, so once again, there's a Moskva, and he is in a defensive position against the Des Moines, but he's very much not in a defensive position against my shots. Now here comes the carrier, and once again, there's very little you can do. Midway takes out the gearing. You're just going to have to take that one on the chin, really. But I am running the rapid reload, even though it's not ideal. Double fire, not going to triple fire, not going to do that until the torpedoes come. There come the torpedoes, so damage con that. Shots out at the Moskva, seem to have missed for some reason. Because I really want to push that Moskva away and get him out of his position there. So well, a couple more shots out. And this is really kind of how you want to play the ship. You want to get yourself a defensible position where you're not being shot at by everybody. And yeah, the Moskva is now retreating, which means our Des Moines is probably safe from him. Oh no, he's coming back. Okay, brave he is. Alright, there's another shot out then. And yeah, you want to have these kind of angles. So you want to run in things like domination battles, you want to run flanks, you want to use island cover. You want to find yourself defensible positions from which you have a good angle. And look at the Moskva. He's in a crossfire now, because I think this is Des Moines fire coming in from the right. Yeah, by the frequency of it, and he can't really do anything because he's getting shot by me on the other side. Look at that dispersion. It was abysmal. Let's see if the carrier comes back for me. Doesn't look like. Okay, so I'm going to start moving forward more aggressively, because we have killed 3 ships. The Moskva is finally relenting and is moving back. And yeah, Des Moines has been playing excellent here so far, and has done the exact right thing, and has helped push the destroyer out of the center cup together with the carrier, given AA support probably, and see if we can finish off the Moskva. Finally, yep, there she goes. And that just leaves 2 battleships and the carrier. So now we're holding the center, and yeah, once again, ships like the Des Moines are extremely useful. You should, if you're in a battleship, try to keep these things alive, you know, because they are very good at AA duty. They are very good at dealing with destroyers. That's the Yamato taken care of. I don't think I'll have shots at whatever else that is there, but yeah, we'll see if we can still shoot at something before the timer runs out. Well played, Des Moines. But yeah, this is the role you want, and honestly, I'm not 100% sure what the complaint's all about, because I like this ship. I mean, it's not a grand ship. It's not like overpowered or anything, but it's also not absolutely terrible. I would have to compare actually against the Soviet ships if she's got a better range, but the combination of precise aim and rapid reload is definitely a fun one, because you can actually switch the ammunition quite a little bit if you need to, and I mean, you can't be aggressive, obviously, in the ship easily, but you can, you can make towards the end of the battle, you can make a push if needed. And, against cruisers, the armor piercing is very effective, obviously. And, it's not a bad ship. I'm so far really enjoying the games I've played. Maybe because my initial expectations were reasonably low. But, I might be tempted to play up the Japanese battleship tree and just to get the proper snipey ships to do things with. And yeah, because of the forward gun layout, you can and have to use island cover a lot more effectively, in such that you don't have to poke out all the way to get your rear turrets to fire, but you can leave half the ship behind an island and just get your forward turrets out. So, surprisingly decent ship, I'd say, for the reputation that the Izumo has. Yeah, and that's all I got so far. At some point I might play the actual tech tree and see how that holds up, but this one isn't bad. That's it for me today. Thanks everybody, and I'll see you next time. Bye.